Dr. Michael Anders was a seasoned doctor who had seen life and death up close, but nothing prepared him for the night he died on the hospital bed. Clinically gone, his soul soared into a realm of radiant light, and returned with unexplainable powers. From hearing the voice of Jesus to diagnosing hidden illnesses with supernatural accuracy, what happened next stunned even his colleagues. This isn't just another near-death experience, it's a divine calling that changed everything.
My name is Dr. Michael Anders. I'm 47 years old, an emergency room doctor living in Madison, Wisconsin. I've spent most of my adult life around sickness, pain, and death. But nothing could have prepared me for the day I experienced it myself. It started with what seemed like a common kidney infection. I was given strong antibiotics, something routine, something I've prescribed hundreds of times. But my body didn't handle it well. I didn't know it at the time, but I was about to have a severe allergic reaction. I remember lying in the hospital bed, watching the nurse walk in with the syringe. She smiled, asked how I was doing, and gave me the injection in my hip. I smiled back, pretending everything was fine. But within seconds, I felt that something was wrong. Deeply wrong. I couldn't explain it, but my body knew before my brain could catch up. My heart started pounding. The room began to spin. My vision narrowed until I could only see what was directly in front of me. Everything else faded to black. I tried to speak, to call for help, but no sound came out. And then, just like that, I let go. I stopped feeling the bed beneath me. I stopped feeling anything at all. The next thing I knew, I was floating a few feet above my own body. I looked down and saw myself lying there still, pale, unmoving. I should have been terrified. And I was. But not in the usual way. I wasn't afraid of monsters or darkness. I was afraid because I knew the truth, I was dying. I could still hear the hospital sounds faintly in the background, the beeping machines, the muffled voices, but they felt distant, like echoes from another world. I was no longer part of it. Then came a strange calm. I wasn't in pain. I wasn't gasping for breath. I was just, out. Separate. Disconnected. It was like slipping out of a suit you'd worn all your life, only to realize you were never the suit. In that moment, hovering in silence, I understood something deeply: I was no longer in control. And whatever was about to happen, it wasn't up to me anymore. After floating above my body, everything around me began to shift. The hospital, the lights, the sound, it all melted away. I was no longer in the room. I was being pulled into something I can only describe as a deep, endless darkness. At first, the darkness scared me. It wasn't just the absence of light, it was silence, stillness, and the feeling that I had left everything I'd ever known behind. I had no body, no breath, no heartbeat. Just awareness. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stop it. I was being drawn in, like a current carrying me out to sea. Then, far in the distance, I saw a tiny point of light. It was small at first, but it pulsed with life. It was alive. As I moved closer, the fear faded. The light pulled me in, not with force, but with love. It was as if it was calling me home. I felt peace start to wash over me, like warm waves on a shore I hadn't realized I missed. As I got nearer, the light grew brighter. It didn't burn my eyes. Instead, it filled me. It wasn't just in front of me, it was in me, around me, everywhere. Time didn't exist there. There were no thoughts of yesterday or tomorrow. No pain. No shame. No pressure to perform, to fix, to explain. Just being. I realized then I wasn't Dr. Michael Anders anymore. I wasn't a doctor. I wasn't a man. I wasn't even a human being. I was a soul. Free. Whole. Loved. Every title I ever held, every role I'd ever played, husband, father, doctor, son, all of it fell away like old clothes. And it felt right. The light was now a massive, glowing sphere. Inside it were colors I'd never seen on Earth, sounds that felt like music and love at the same time. I moved closer, aching to enter. I knew, somehow, that going in would mean full peace forever. And just when I reached the edge, it stopped. Without warning, I was yanked backwards like someone had grabbed my soul and hurled it back through the darkness. I slammed into my body with force. The weight, the pain, the noise, it all rushed back at once. I was alive again. But I was not the same. When I opened my eyes, I was back in my hospital bed. My parents were standing over me, crying with relief. The nurse smiled and called it a miracle. But I didn't feel like a miracle had happened. I felt like I had been somewhere far away, somewhere more real than here. I was 7 years old. Too young to understand what had happened, and definitely too young to explain it. So I called it a dream. That's what grown-ups always say when something doesn't make sense. It was just a dream. So I told myself that too. But the dream stayed with me. I remembered the light, the feeling of peace, and that deep knowing that I had left my body. It didn't fade like most dreams do. It stayed clear, like a movie playing over and over in my mind. Then strange things began to happen. At school, I would look at people and see colors around them. Not like colors on their clothes or walls, but soft, glowing lights, like a fog that clung to their bodies. My teacher had a blue glow. My friend Jason had green around his heart. Some people had no color at all, which made me feel uneasy. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew it wasn't normal. One day I told a friend about it. I said, "Do you see that? Around his head? It's yellow." He looked at me like I had two heads. "What are you talking about?" he laughed. I tried again with my sister. Same reaction. Confusion, then laughter. So I stopped talking about it. I told myself I was imagining things. Maybe I was just weird. I didn't want to be weird. I wanted to fit in, make friends, be normal. So I pushed it all down. I stopped looking at people that way. I stopped asking questions. I never forgot the dream. But I buried it deep, like a secret too strange to speak aloud. Looking back now, I realize those were the first seeds that had been planted in me during that night I died. I just wasn't ready to understand them yet. Years passed. I grew up, went to college, then medical school. I built a career in emergency medicine and earned a reputation for staying calm under pressure. People called me steady, smart, and fast-thinking. I didn't talk about spiritual things. I didn't have time for them. Life was full of shift work, trauma cases, and long nights. Somewhere deep inside me, though, that strange dream from childhood still lived. It never went away completely. I just never let it rise to the surface. That changed one day during a medical conference in Chicago. I had finished my presentation and sat down beside another speaker, a quiet man named Dr. Ezra Logan. We started talking casually about medicine and burnout. Then, for some reason, he mentioned something unusual. "You ever have patients who die, come back, and describe the light?" he asked, almost whispering. I froze. "What do you mean?" He looked at me and said, "You know what I mean. Tunnel. Light. Peace. Feeling like you left your body." My hands went cold. "Yeah. I've had one of those," I admitted slowly. "When I was a kid. But I always thought it was a dream." He smiled. "That wasn't a dream. That was a near-death experience." I had never heard those words put together like that before. Near-death experience. Something clicked. Like a puzzle piece finding its place after all these years. I didn't say anything for a while. My heart was racing. Dr. Logan leaned in. "You came back with something, didn't you? Gifts? Feelings? Maybe you could see things. Tears welled up in my eyes. I didn't even know why. I felt like someone had turned on a light in a room I had forgotten existed. That conversation changed everything. I went back to my hotel and stayed up all night. I revisited the memory, the floating, the light, the peace. I wrote it all down for the first time. And as I did, something stirred inside me. Not fear. Not confusion. Just a quiet, powerful recognition. It wasn't just a childhood dream. It was real. It happened. And the things I had buried long ago, those strange gifts, I realized they had never left me. They were still there, waiting. Once I accepted that what happened to me as a child was real, everything started making sense. The strange feelings I had all my life, the colors I saw around people, the way I sometimes knew things before anyone told me, they weren't random. They were gifts. Planted in me the night I died. The first one was the ability to see people's energy. Auras, I guess you could call them. But it was more than just light. It was emotion, health, even spiritual state. I remember sitting in the ER one night. A man came in complaining of chest pain. On the monitor, everything looked normal. But I saw something else. His aura was dark, murky around the chest. I couldn't explain it, but I knew he was in danger. I ran more tests. He was minutes away from a heart attack. That happened more than once. The colors told me things before machines could. The second gift was something harder to talk about, the ability to leave my body. I didn't tell anyone for a long time. How could I? I didn't want to sound crazy. But sometimes, during quiet moments, I'd lie down, close my eyes, and suddenly feel myself rise, not physically, but spiritually. I'd float above myself, seeing my body below. Once, I even traveled. I left my room and drifted over my childhood farm. I saw my father fixing the fence, my brother riding the old tractor. It was peaceful, still, like watching life from a higher place. I felt no fear. No limits. Just freedom. The third gift was the one that changed me the most: stillness. I learned how to quiet my mind, completely. It started with a few minutes of breathing, sitting in darkness, clearing the noise. And then it would happen, this warmth would fill my chest. I'd feel surrounded, almost held. I didn't hear a voice, but I knew. God was there. Not far away, not judging, just present. Just love. Pure, silent love. The more I practiced, the deeper it got. Sometimes I'd sit for hours, doing nothing but breathing and listening. And in that stillness, I'd find healing. Direction. Peace that couldn't be shaken by anything happening around me. These three gifts: sight, travel, and stillness, they weren't tricks or talents. They were reminders. That I had touched the eternal. That I had been with God. And somehow, He had sent a piece of that experience back with me. The first time I clearly heard the voice of Christ, it was during a night shift in the ER. I'll never forget it. It was around 2 a.m. A woman in her early 40s was rushed in by ambulance. She had collapsed at work. No known trauma, no history of major illness. Just collapsed. She wasn't breathing well, and her skin looked pale and damp. The paramedics had done everything by the book, but she was fading fast. We rolled her into a room. Nurses were moving quickly, checking vitals, hooking up monitors. I stood at the foot of the bed, scanning her chart. Nothing added up. Her heart was steady. No obvious signs of stroke or seizure. It should have been routine, but I felt something off. Like there was something hidden we weren't seeing. That's when I heard it. Clear as someone standing beside me. A voice, deep but gentle, spoke into my left ear. It said, "Put your hand on her right foot and press." I froze. It wasn't my thought. It wasn't some passing instinct. It was outside of me but also in me. I don't know how else to explain it. I hesitated. Then I did exactly what the voice said. I pressed her right foot, firmly. Her arm jerked. Then the voice said, "She has clonus. Her brain is being poisoned." I called for a neurological check. The others looked confused. One of the nurses asked me, "Why are we doing this? What do you think is going on?" I didn't answer. I just asked for specific blood work, Tylenol levels and ammonia levels tests we wouldn't normally run this early. They raised eyebrows, but they ordered them anyway. An hour later, the labs came back. Off the charts. Her liver was shutting down. She had unknowingly overdosed on Tylenol due to a hidden combination in her medication. It had triggered toxic levels of ammonia in her bloodstream on the edge of fatal. We gave her the antidote immediately. 3 days later, she walked out of the hospital completely fine. The staff said I was lucky. That I must have guessed. But I knew the truth. I didn't guess. Someone told me. And I recognized the voice. It was the same voice that once called me home when I was 7. The voice from the light. It was Jesus. And it wouldn't be the last time he spoke. After that night, the voice didn't leave me. It didn't speak often, but when it did, it was clear, firm, and always right. And the more I listened, the more I began to trust it. Over the years, several moments stand out, times when the guidance was so precise, it shook everyone around me. One of the most powerful moments came when a 15-year-old boy was brought into the ER. He'd fallen during gym class. Scraped knees, bruised palms, nothing major. His mother brought him in just to be safe. He was talking, laughing, said he felt fine. I almost discharged him. But when I placed my stethoscope on his chest, I felt that something wasn't right. Then the voice came again, "Order a cardiac panel." He had a heart attack. A heart attack? On a teenager? The nurses gave me odd looks. "You want to run heart enzymes on a kid who fell?" they asked. But I insisted. The results came back a few minutes later. Off the charts. He had suffered a silent cardiac episode from a rare congenital condition that had nearly closed one of his arteries. We rushed him to surgery. If he had gone home that night, he wouldn't have woken up the next morning. Another time, an elderly woman came in after a cardiac arrest. CPR had been performed, but she never regained a pulse. We worked on her for nearly 30 minutes. Eventually, I called time of death, and the room emptied. I stood alone beside her and did what I always do. I placed her hand against my chest and prayed. This time, something different happened. Her aura appeared before me, soft, glowing, complete. I saw her sit up, full of light. She turned, looked directly at me, and smiled. "Thank you," she whispered, not with her mouth, but with something deeper. Then her form dissolved into a stream of light, and I watched as it rose upward and vanished. I stood there, shaking. Not from fear, but from awe. When people ask how I knew what to do in these moments, I don't have a scientific answer. I just say, I listened. Not with my ears, but with my spirit. And the truth is, I didn't save them. I was just the hands. God did the rest. Over time, I began to notice something that no medical textbook could explain. It didn't happen with every patient, but often enough that I stopped questioning it. When someone was about to die or had just passed, I would feel a shift in the room. It was subtle at first. The air would grow still. A calm would settle in, deeper than anything silence could bring. Then I'd see the light. It wasn't the bright, blinding light I saw during my own near-death experience. This light was gentler, like a soft glow filling the space. Sometimes it hovered. Sometimes it moved. But it always brought peace. One night, an elderly woman named Mrs. Langston was brought in after collapsing at home. Her daughter had found her unconscious and called 911. We worked on her for a long time. There was no response. Her heart had stopped. Finally, I made the call time of death. Everyone else left the room. I stayed behind, as I often did, and quietly placed my hand over hers. I said a short prayer not out of habit, but because it felt right. Then it happened. Her body remained still, but I saw something lift. A form light, but shaped like her, rose gently above the bed. She looked younger, full of grace and softness. She turned toward me, smiled, and whispered, "Thank you." I didn't hear it with my ears. I felt it, deep inside. And then, from the corner of the room, I saw something else, a presence. It wasn't fully visible, but it radiated warmth and power. Like an angel, or something close to it. Mrs. Langston's light moved toward it. They joined together, and the two forms rose upward and vanished. The room returned to normal. Machines beeped. The hallway buzzed. But I stood there, still, heart full. That night confirmed what I'd always felt deep down: no one dies alone. Even in our final breath, we are met. Not with fear, not with emptiness, but with love. I don't know why I see these things. I don't ask for them. But I receive them with reverence. Because when someone leaves this world, something holy happens. And I'm blessed just to witness it. Grief is heavy. In the ER, I saw it every day, people breaking down after losing someone they loved. But what I've learned over the years is that grief, while natural, can also become a wall. It can block the very connection our loved ones are trying to make with us from the other side. One night after giving a talk at a hospice center, a man named Peter approached me. He looked tired, worn down by sadness. He asked if we could speak in private. We stepped into a quiet room, and he sat down slowly. "I lost my daughter," he said, his voice cracking. "She was 11. Someone took her from us. It's been 2 years. I don't sleep. I don't eat. I don't feel anything except pain." He said he prayed every night but never felt her. Never dreamed of her. Never sensed anything. "It's like she's just gone," he whispered. I listened, then asked gently, "Would you be open to trying something with me? Just a few minutes of quiet." He nodded. I asked him to close his eyes and take a deep breath. We sat in stillness. I guided him to breathe slowly, and let the grief soften just for a moment. I asked him to imagine her, not as she died, but as she lived. Her smile. Her laugh. The way she ran across the yard. He started to cry, but stayed with the image. Then, as clear as day, I saw her. A little girl in a blue and white dress appeared across from him. Her golden hair shimmered in the light. She reached out and touched his hands. "She's here," I said quietly. "She's holding your hands. She's saying, 'Daddy, I'm okay. I'm happy. Please let go.'" Peter's eyes filled with tears. He didn't speak. He just sat there, breathing slowly, nodding. "I can feel her," he whispered. And I believed him. Afterward, he told me it was the first moment of peace he had felt in 2 years. That's when I understood grief doesn't stop us from loving them. But if we don't make space for peace, we can't feel their love coming back. They're not gone. They're still near. But sometimes, the quiet is the only place they can reach us. People often assume that because I've seen miracles, I somehow escape pain. But that's not true. I've faced my own battles, deep, physical ones. Over the years, I was diagnosed with 3 different types of cancer. First, it was colon cancer. Then came kidney cancer. And finally, testicular cancer. Just when I thought I'd made it through, I had a massive stroke. I was in my late 40s when it all hit. The stroke came suddenly. One moment I was walking down the hallway, the next I was on the floor, unable to move the right side of my body. I couldn't speak clearly. My vision blurred. My body failed me. But my spirit stayed calm. I didn't panic. I didn't even pray in fear. Instead, I remembered who I was, not just a man, not just a body, but a soul created in the image of God. In that moment, lying helpless, I said in my heart, "This has no power over me. I am already healed." I knew I had to cooperate with treatment, so yes, I had surgery for the cancers. But I didn't hand over my peace to a diagnosis. I visualized healing. I meditated daily, breathing slowly, imagining divine light moving through every cell. I refused to speak doom over myself. I never said, "I'm sick." I said, "I'm healing." The doctors offered their timelines. They said the stroke recovery could take months or years. They doubted I'd walk again soon. But I knew different. Deep inside, I heard that quiet voice again, "You will walk out of here." And I did. It wasn't instant. It took time: physical therapy, speech practice, rest. But I kept my mind aligned with heaven. I treated the process like a sacred journey, not a punishment. And here's what I learned: when you refuse fear, you make space for faith to rise. When you speak peace over your body listens. Healing isn't just medical. It's spiritual. It starts inside. I've been through the valley. But I never walked alone. And if God could pull me from death once, I knew He'd do it again. And He did. After decades in the ER, I finally hung up my stethoscope. Not because I stopped caring, but because I knew my work was shifting. I wasn't just being called to treat bodies anymore, I was being called to heal souls. Retirement from medicine wasn't easy. For years, my identity was wrapped up in saving lives, making fast decisions, and staying calm in crisis. But after my stroke and recovery, I realized that season was over. God was pointing me in a new direction. And I had to listen. These days, my life looks very different. I spend more time in silence than I ever have before. I wake up early, light a candle, and sit quietly with God. I write mostly reflections, memories, lessons I've learned from both medicine and the spirit. I speak at churches, hospitals, and small groups. I share stories, not just of miracles, but of mistakes, of healing, and of the hope that waits for all of us. People write to me from all over. They ask about death, about what comes after, about how to connect with loved ones who've passed. Some are grieving. Some are afraid. Some just feel lost. And I tell them the same thing I tell myself every day: you are not alone. And love never dies. In private sessions, I guide people through grief, spiritual doubt, and the fear of death. We breathe. We pray. We listen for the stillness. Sometimes, they weep. Sometimes, they smile for the first time in years. I don't miss the ER. Not really. Because now I get to help people before the crisis comes. I get to prepare hearts, not just bodies. I get to be a light in the quiet places where people are searching for peace. I'm not just a retired doctor. I'm a messenger now. And this is the work I was born to do. If there's one truth I want you to take from everything I've shared, it's this. You are not just flesh and blood. You are a soul. A living, eternal spirit, deeply loved by God and filled with His light. We spend so much of our lives thinking we are only our bodies, our job titles, our appearance, our mistakes, our pain. But I've left my body. I've looked down at it from above. I've felt what it's like to exist without it. And I can tell you with certainty, your body is not who you are. It's just the vehicle. The car. You're the one driving it. When the body gets tired, or sick, or stops working altogether, the soul doesn't die. It returns home. Death isn't the end. It's a return. And it's more beautiful than any words can truly describe. The peace, the stillness, the love waiting there, it's overwhelming. There's no fear in it. Only welcome. But we don't have to wait until death to experience that love. It's here, now. Right where you are. You just have to be quiet long enough to feel it. Still your mind. Close your eyes. Take a slow breath. That warmth you feel pressing gently against your chest, that's him. That's the divine. It's not far. It's not hidden. It's right there, waiting for you to stop running, stop doubting, stop fearing, and listen. We are surrounded by love, even in our darkest moments. Even when we feel most alone. And if you've lost someone, if you're carrying the weight of grief, I want to say this clearly, they're still with you. Not in a memory. Not in a photograph. But in spirit. Right here. You just need to listen. You just need to quiet the noise, let the pain rest for a moment, and allow your heart to open. I've seen souls leave the body and smile. I've heard final words spoken without mouths. I've seen the divine welcome people home. And I've felt love so strong, it undoes every fear I've ever known. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to live. Don't be afraid to die. And don't be afraid to believe that you are more than your past, more than your failures, more than your fear. You are light. You are spirit. And you are deeply, eternally loved. Let that truth guide you now. Let it hold you when life gets heavy. And when the time comes for you to leave this world, know this, you won't be alone. You never were.